Happy Monday. You're on To The Point with Eric Mitchell. I'm your host, Eric Mitchell. It is Monday, May 18th, in case you're keeping track after the last 738 days of quarantine. Just kidding. It's only 8.5 weeks. Never thought we would say 8.5 weeks. Remember when everybody was singing? Remember when we had John Legend and everybody was on our TV and they were singing to us because it was only going to be 2 weeks, 15 days. That was 8.5 weeks ago, in case you're playing at home. Now they're not singing to us anymore. I feel left out. Anyways, it is, hopefully you had a good weekend. We got some news to get into it. So let's get to the point with some news. Started off the morning. We heard that the attack in Pensacola back in October by the Saudi students. The FBI has found ties. So the Saudi aviation student who killed 3 people at the Florida Navy base in October was in touch with suspected Al-Qaeda operatives. A person from the FBI shared discoveries made based upon information found on the gunman's locked iPhone. We've come a long way. If you think about it, in the past, we've tried to be able to unlock the iPhones for criminal investigations such as terror attacks, and Apple wasn't coming to the party and playing with us. When it comes to terrorist events, I have free reign on these, especially if you're not a U.S. citizen. We get to look in your phone. I get it. As a citizen, we have our rights. It's our Constitution. It's kind of like if we want to go back to work. Hey, if we don't want to wear a mask, if we want to open our small businesses up. Hey, Governor Newsom, that one's for you, bud. Let the small businesses open in California. These people cannot afford to spend another 3 months sitting at home eating bonbons and doing nothing. They want to get back to work. Hollywood needs to get back to work. I'm scared if we start getting commercials that are made at home. I can't guarantee the quality is going to be very good. And most of us don't even watch commercials anymore unless it pops up on our Hulu. So Second Lieutenant Mohammed, oh my goodness, last name, a member of the Saudi Air Force who was training with the U.S. military, posted an anti-U.S. message on social media just 2 hours before he opened fire in a classroom on December 6th. Boy, did I have that date wrong. I said it was October. It was December. The days are all blurring together. Attorney General William Barr called the attack an act of terrorism and did pressure Apple to unlock the pair of gunmen's iPhones so they could provide more information. Also today, the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell said in an interview that the U.S. could take well over a year to recover from the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. Why do we have to call it coronavirus pandemic? Can't we just say coronavirus or pandemic? I think we know the two of them go together. Magic Johnson, you gotta love this. Magic Johnson was not just a terrific basketball player on the court, but his company will provide over $100 million in capital to fund loans through Small Business Administration's Paycheck Protection Program. Magic Johnson stepping up to the plate, doing what so many businesses have not been able to do. Guys with money stepping up and taking care of them. That is outstanding. Good job, Magic Johnson and your team. Magic has been huge for the folks in LA County. He's always taken care of his own community. You've got to love it. I know we talked about it last week. The rumor came out on Friday that Uber was trying to acquire Grubhub. Well, Grubhub CEO Matt Maloney indicated that Uber's offer of 1.9% of its shares for each share of Grubhub is too low, and he's no longer interested. Interesting at this time as we're talking about people without money, and now we have 2 really big companies that we're all using. Well, Grubhub probably more than Uber, but you've got to see the way that they're looking at it. Apparently, everybody's doing pretty well in the tech sector. So also scrambling to raise funds, the Japanese technology conglomerate SoftBank is working towards a deal to sell a significant portion of its T-Mobile US stake. If you're playing at home and keeping track of T-Mobile and Sprint recently merged and it was approved by the SEC. I think about 3 to 4 weeks right before we went into quarantine. So now you're seeing SoftBank is now selling a majority of it. Meanwhile, the controlling shareholder is Deutsche Telekom, something like that. Anyways, I don't think I said that right, but hey, whatever. Meanwhile, SoftBank also declared a $9 billion loss for the year, and Alibaba co-founder Jack Ma left its board. SoftBank sounds like it's in disarray, and Japan yesterday was the first large economy or large country to declare themselves in an official recession. I didn't know we need to do that. Reminds me of Michael Scott on The Office when he declared bankruptcy. I'm telling you, going outside and yelling, I declare bankruptcy is not bankruptcy. That's not how you do it. You got to actually go file it. Speaking of, if you guys remember on Friday, Pavlina and I were talking about the retail industry. 2 hours after we finished the program, JCPenney filed Chapter 11. We will see other companies follow suit. What else we got here for you guys? And Eric news, which was good news for those of us who've had the vaccine for a while. A Canadian, according to a study conducted by Canada's University of Lethbridge, scientists are now theorizing that certain marijuana strains could possibly prevent COVID-19 infections. Hot damn. First, my mom lied to me and said video games, I could never get paid to do video games. People getting paid to do video games. And second, smoking weed keeps you safe from COVID-19. Woohoo! Happy Monday. And it's not even 420. But anyways, this study, researchers at the Calgary College have studied 400 strains of weed and have concluded at least a dozen strains aided in preventing the coronavirus from finding a host in the mouth, intestines, and lungs. The study's head researcher, Dr. Igor, oh my God, you have a last name I'm not going to say, said a number of them have reduced the number of these virus receptors by 73%. The chance of getting it in is much lower. If they can reduce the number of receptors, there's much less of chance of getting infected. These researchers were able to identify 13 CBD extracts that were able to change ACE2 levels, an enzyme previously linked to COVID-19. The data also suggested that some strains were also able to control the serine protease, TMPRSS2, which is another protein necessary for COVID-19. This is more than I've learned about COVID-19. It's funny when you put weed and COVID-19 together, people actually read it. But folks, kidding aside, when we talk about the crisis in COVID-19, I think one of the biggest things we have to think about is what happens now that we've opened the economy. Now, if you've done your research and you've looked at the CARES Act, you'll carefully see under the CARES Act that rent was covered. So renters across America felt that they were covered. And we've seen that some cities and states have put moratoriums on evictions, and some banks have said people don't need to pay. And we've even seen some amazing landlord or property owners in New York and throughout the country say, hey, you don't have to pay in April. But we're in the middle of May and we have June right around the corner. If you're playing at home again, Memorial Day is this weekend, not next weekend. So we still have another whole full week going on. It's concerning to me that our next big issue in our country, besides being in a recession, is the fact that a staggering 73% of renters in our country will not be protected. That is a huge issue that we need to bring to light, that people may be able to get forgiveness. But remember, there are people out there that are taking no excuses. They do not care if your grandma dies. They do not care if COVID-19 took your job. They want to be paid because they're not being protected. See, this all goes around, and keep in mind, you could be like, well, we should all waive it. But if you look at the numbers, folks, it just doesn't add up to win for any of us. Because at the end, if you, the renter, say, well, I don't want to pay rent, we should have a moratorium on paying rent. Please make it so we could go rent free. Well, ladies and gents, your rent pays for property taxes. Property taxes pay for first responders, teachers, and a whole slew of other things. So you start taking that money away from it and they run out, it comes back around and hits you. This cycle will never stop. And no, the answer is not finding another $3 trillion that we clearly don't have. I looked outside again this morning and that money tree is still not growing in my yard. I don't know about at Nancy Pelosi's house, but the weather's pretty good in the Bay Area where she's holed up. And I can tell you, I don't think there's a money tree in the Presidio either. We have problems, folks. We need to be looking out for our renters. There has to be a solution out there. Again, just like mental health in our country, mental health and a homeless epidemic are going to hit us really hard, which homelessness is not a problem. Will probably be ignored in cities like LA, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Portland, and Seattle, and other states that have huge problems with homeless. But again, renters need to be protected, and we're not being sold the right bill of goods. Not one of these acts actually protects us. If you read the CARES Act, I don't mean to go on a rant here, but I read this over the weekend and was blown away, and it's very concerning. I have a daughter who actually could be affected by this. If you think about the numbers, 37% of people, renters in America, were covered by the CARES Act, because the CARES Act said anybody who was covered by a government building that the government has either aid to bail out or provided funding for was covered under this moratorium. It's a 120-day moratorium. The rest of the SAPs who own homes don't. And that doesn't mean mortgages are any better. It's going to turn into a mess because courts are going to open up and evictions are going to go through. Yes, it takes a lot. And we're going to get into it. We're going to have a whole segment on this, but we're going to show you as a renter how you could go to court and protect yourself. Because if you go to a housing court and look at these when they run the evictions, 99% of the time the renter will lose because they don't know the right things to say or do. And in most states, you are not provided counsel like you are in criminal act. It will cost you money to get an attorney who will know all the loopholes to help you save where you live. And folks, this is an issue. And if you don't think it doesn't cause mental health issues, they go side by side. So I want to cover that. Just want to jump into that topic. I thought it was very interesting over the weekend to read these numbers. So So we're going to jump from my rant to NASCAR. Was just yesterday. They had their first race. Kevin Harvick won, and the race was marred at the very beginning by a crash. And we're going to dive into sports in the second half of the hour when Scott Stanford joins us. We're going to talk wrestling and NASCAR. We're just going to talk sports in general. Looking forward to that. It's always good. And Last Dance, the final 2 episodes were last night, and they lit up social media like a Christmas tree. So that is all the news on To The Point for today, Monday, May 18th. Yes, I keep saying Monday just to remind myself what day of the week it is, because every day feels like Groundhog Day around here. So our first guest, and we're excited for our first guest. Our first guest has, and it's George, right? No, our first guest is, I'm just all over the place. Our first guest is an amazing storyteller. When it comes to advertising, she's worked with some of the biggest brands that you see on TV. So she knows how to weave a story and get us all sucked in to go buy the product because we see the ad on TV, radio, and everywhere else. So when we come back from this next message, we're going to welcome our first guest to the show. Hey, our first guest is here, Ellen Buchsbaum.
Let's just go with Buchsbaum. Yep, Buchsbaum. Good job.
Hey, so how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and I just want to say you opened the show with saying that people aren't watching advertising, but I would say people are watching advertising, and they're taking note of how brands are reacting during COVID-19.
Absolutely. I will agree with you on, I have noticed some bigger brands do commercials where they're not advertising their brand to say, but their messages, we're here for you. We're going to help. We're taking care of our employees. And I like that. I'm not going to say the brand's name, but if you eat chips, you'll probably figure out who it was. I've seen it all over social the last few days, and I've really enjoyed their ads. But it's interesting you want to jump in on that topic. We've had other guests on the show who have talked about network TV. Our friends in the news side are actually hurting when it comes to the ad side. Record ratings, bad advertising. What is causing that? Because you're seeing that both the big networks that are controversial to networks are the ones that are talking the loudest about great ratings, not so good ads.
Well, it's a little hard for brands right now to know what to do. There's no playbook for how to advertising in a pandemic. So you can run the ads that you've been running, and then you might seem a little out of step with what's going on right now. You can revisit some of the ads of the past, which are some brands are doing right now. They're recutting ads or revisiting with older, previously known spokespeople, and then revitalizing them in a new way. Or you have ads that are really focused on the time now that we're living in with COVID and how the brands are reacting.
Absolutely. I mean, so it is interesting. Let's walk folks through how this works, right? When we talk about, if you don't mind, I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But advertising fascinates a lot of people because you don't realize it. If you've been on Earth for more than a minute, you've seen a commercial, you've been targeted by an ad. But explaining how it works with how these advertisers have had to really make a pivot in the last 8 weeks, the normal news cycle. Obviously, it's been weird, especially for the news side of the house. You got to think about it. we started 2020. I think 2020 was just doomed from the beginning. We started off with the embassy. Of course, we were in the middle of the impeachment. We're in year number, 4 of the Trump administration.
40.
And then we got hit with a pandemic that everybody, including our White House, basically told us wasn't going to be that bad.
Yeah.
Someone did stand up on a stage and said only 15 people have it. We're huge. We're great. We're in America. We'll beat it. It'll go from 15 to 5. Yeah. 78,000 people dead later. Oopsie, that number was a little wrong.
Yeah.
Stick to reality TV is what we should tell some people, and not Twitter. But that's my own side note on certain topics. But I mean, how do advertisers, how do they pivot from this? Obviously, they can't even film new commercials unless they're doing it at home.
Well, so you bring up a really good point. So there's a few things to unpack here. So one of them is how they pivot is, if you think about advertising, it is a reflection of what's going on today. It's really a mirror to what's going on in society and culture. So if you were to ask me what's advertising going to be like in 2 years, I would say I don't know, because we don't know what's going to be in our world in the next 2 years either. But I can tell you right now, and in the foreseeable future, advertising is a lot of brands, and I know because I'm working on some, where we're rethinking things that are on air now and recutting them to maybe not have groups of people at a restaurant or groups of people in a backyard together or inside at a house. We're having our ads have the same message that they've had. And a lot of brands are doing this, but recutting them so they're being mindful of the social distancing that we're being asked to do for our own safety. So that's one thing that we're doing. We're looking at previous brands are looking at previous spots that they've done and maybe bringing back some beloved characters, like AT&T is bringing back Lily, and she's now working from home. And that's a way of showing that this is reflecting what's going on in society right now. So Budweiser also did it with the What's Up Guys. So maybe some of the younger viewers don't know what that is, but they're bringing back some iconic characters, and then they're showing how they're social distancing but still staying in touch. So again, it's a reflection of what's going on right now. And that's what some really strong, good advertising is doing to help their brands and sell their products, which still needs to be done. A lot of people cut ad revenue and ad budget during difficult times, but brands that stay relevant during difficult times are more relevant after. They've been there all along.
So let me ask you, if you remember back in November, small company that a lot of people love today. I'm proud to be a user of Peloton, right? Peloton was just destroyed in November, right? Oh, they're sexist and you're just like, well, clearly you've never ridden in a Peloton class because 98% of the instructors are awesome women, and there's like 5 male instructors. They're all awesome. Don't get me wrong. I mean, just this Saturday, it shows the power of people bash on Peloton, but Saturday at 10 a.m., there was a Last Dance class, which was for the Michael Jordan documentary, sponsored by ESPN, that Alex Trezant did. 21,000 people attended. I was one of them, and so many of my friends were in this. It was amazing. 21,000 people on a Saturday got together and rode for 30 minutes. So, how do you see that now? Like, Peloton was vilified in November, but their stock is up almost 40% today.
Well, one person's great ad is another person's great miss. So if you're sitting on the sidelines and you're being an armchair quarterback, watching the Super Bowl, and which is something I do, and I live tweet and live post about what's going on, along with millions of other people. The ad that I think is incredible, and maybe half the office thinks is incredible, another office or thousands of other people can think that's the worst thing I ever saw. So everybody's a critic. And you just really hope that you are getting it right. And that's the secret sauce of trying to make sure that you're not doing a Kendall Jenner with Pepsi, which was probably somebody like me and the team I work with at Pure Ed. We're thinking, oh, hey, we're going to come up with something that's really relevant right now. And that missed. But a lot of times you come up with something relevant, and that's what your hope is. And you make your brand relevant, and then you have something incredible to show for it. So Peloton, maybe a lot of people love that ad because they said, that's me. I wanted that gift for Christmas or Hanukkah. They asked for it for the holidays, and they didn't understand why that was considered, they were so vilified. But now Peloton's getting the last laugh because they're flying off the shelves. You can't even get one right now. They're back ordered until at least July.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's crazy. Sorry, I'm having you don't see me, but I'm here.
That's okay.
My camera decided it just wanted to turn off randomly. Gotta love live everything, right? But in all seriousness, I mean, that is true the way that you talk about it. I mean, Pelotons are very hard to find. I mean, there's a lot of weird things that are hard to find right now, including mini HDMI cables sold out around the country. Cameras are going, Canon and Sony and Nikon have reported their mirrorless vlogging cameras are flying off the shelves. It is a crazy situation now. And it's crazy how you wouldn't think that those would be the hot item, but they are. And it's just been one of these weird things that watching this go down has been mind blowing. It's crazy to watch the brands, but you talk about the Super Bowl. So before you go, let's cover one last topic because sports is interesting, and they live and die by their advertising dollars.
They sure do.
In my day side, sports is a big part of our world. A lot of our clients thrive off of TV, especially advertising dollars. So what do you see the loss, or how does sports bounce back? Obviously, advertisers thrive on it. But hearing the number on Friday, Major League Baseball said $640,000 a game they're losing in advertising rev alone. And that's out of, I think, 35 Major League Baseball teams. So start putting that together. That's just a little bit of money, right?
Just a little bit of money. And they may have to look at extending their communications into other environments also through social and get more engagement. So people at home who are maybe watching from home can be engaged as if they were at the game. And there are things that MLB can do to get the fans really active and excited and cheering on from home if they can't be in the stands. So I think there's an ad that's right now, and if you're reluctant to say brands, I won't say the brand, but the line is creativity goes on. And that is exactly how any brand, any agency, any company is going to survive this difficult time that we're all in, is that being creative and thinking outside the box. How are we going to promote ourselves? How are we going to sell our product when maybe it's not really a product people need right now? And how are we going to actually, in my business, how are we going to shoot? And when we actually have a plan, we're working with the production company on how to continue servicing our clients as best as possible, and how we can have safe shoot practices too. So creativity goes on, and that is really a part of advertising, but it's what all of our clients are really looking to us, and we're partnering with them to do on their behalf so they can get through this COVID-19, and we all can too, because everyone still needs to buy things. Clients need to sell, consumers need to buy, and we will just find the way to do it in the best way possible for each individual brand.
I love that. You said that loud enough. I think my wife heard. So she's like, don't worry, I got you. We order Amazon every day.
Well, I speak wife. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, she's like, oh, I need to go buy things. The teenager, she popped her head around the corner too. What? Somebody said it's okay to buy? I'm just listening to Dad's guest. Dad's guest said it's okay. We could go buy things.
I'm a New Yorker. I talk loud too, so it's fine.
It's okay.
Thank
Good.
you.
They can hear me from 800 miles away, they say. But Ellen, I want to thank you for coming on the show. We need to have you back real soon. I love getting into this advertising because we see the news glance over it so quickly, but it's nice to have an expert like you come in and talk about how storytelling and getting creative is very important. So I want to thank you for being a guest today. Hopefully you have yourself a great week, and we'll see you real soon.
You too. Thanks so much.
Thanks. So our next guest, it's Monday, so you know who our next guest is. You know he's going to pop into one of these segments. You just know he has to. There's no choice. So our business whisperer, as I've deemed him, I don't know if he's even approved that. I know he goes by the Lighthouse, but damn it, I'm calling him the business whisperer. We're bringing back for his Monday segment, we're going to talk about creativity and business and helping your brand. So little 10-minute seg here where you get to learn about your business and get some insiders on what you should be doing. We're going to welcome to the show our creative correspondent and the business whisperer, George Bryant.
Good morning.
Morning. How are you?
Happy Monday. It's snowing outside my window right now, so quite an interesting morning.
I would say it's raining out mine, but you're like, dude, you live in Oregon. That's not anything.
Every day it rains, but it's okay.
Nobody really cares about rain in Oregon. They're like, yeah, dude, it's raining in Oregon. Shocking. But it's good to have you here. I don't know if you heard the guest before talking about advertising and how that business is really pivoting and storytelling. And it's kind of a pattern we've been talking about for the last 4 weeks with you on, is talking about businesses needing to do the same thing. You need to come out. And we were talking about the Frito-Lay commercial. Frito-Lay has this great commercial they put out where they don't show their brand at all. It's just creative storytelling that puts you in the perspective of the buyer, right? Sitting at home, watching this show, and you see first responders and the military and people without jobs. I mean, small businesses need to get that message out there too. I mean, I see your messages that you put out on social. What advice do you have for the small business owner? How do they get to that creative point? Because a lot of them are, well, it's easy. Frito-Lay has, billions of dollars to spend. Their marketing advertise. I have $500. Where do people get creative to get their message where, like this Frito-Lay commercial, it tugs at the heart, right? You're just like, oh, I'm glad I like Cool Ranch potato chips because this commercial says that they care about me. I mean, how can brands do the same thing?
Yeah, great question. And it's not about the big budget. Really what it's about, Gary says this all the time, but it's about documenting versus creating. What I find is that most businesses, most brands, they want to connect with their customers, but they spend all their time on the blueprints rather than on the documentation or being in a relationship with their customers. And so, some of the things here is like we expect Frito-Lay to drop literally stupid amounts of money to get a video that you could produce on your iPhone. And the phones these days are completely capable of shooting like television shows, and people don't really care like what it looks like. They care how they feel. And so like one tip that I want to give brands, when you think about like that Frito-Lay commercial or, some of the other commercials where you watch them and you don't see a brand in, what they're really doing is they're just creating a piece of content that allows your avatar or your potential customer to envision themselves in that situation. And that's really speaking their language subconsciously. But when we think about brands and businesses, it's not necessarily about like trying to storyboard the perfect video or, to make this one perfect ad. For me and my clients, it's about creating as many pieces of content and creative as possible to connect with our customers. And then normally one or two of them gets legs and you start to learn kind of the cadence of your audience, kind of the pulse of what they want, what they respond to. And that's kind of how we create content. And there's one thing that I would recommend, every brand or every business or every entrepreneur do when it comes to creating content. And you want to create content that adds value, that your avatar or customer can identify themselves in, but also that they want to share, right? And so Jonah Berger wrote this in his book called Contagious, but there's only 5 reasons that people share anything on social media. And it's humor, controversy, credibility, education, or social status. And so for me, when I'm recommending somebody make a piece of content or a video or 3 tips for this, the questions I ask them, I'm like, is this going to allow your customer, potential customer, to see themselves here, to want to implement this, but also allow them to share this with their friends or with their family and put themselves into one of those buckets? And normally, if you can check one of those boxes, the content always works because people have been waiting for it, wanting it, and they want to do your marketing for you and help share it.
That's perfect. I mean, and I think that's sound advice. I mean, everybody neglects to think that this amazing little device is more than a machine to text and tweet each other. You can produce some pretty good quality with these cameras, amazing shows. I mean, you don't necessarily have to go out and buy a huge, black magic cam or even any no knock on Canon or our friends at Sony, but I mean, they make good products, but not everybody has that in their budget to go have and be able to live stream. There's so many different tools out there. I mean, we're on one right now, which allows you to have shows and meetings like StreamYard and Ecamm and these amazing other products that are out there. So I think people need to get off the excuse. But I mean, would you say it's more excuses that people have than doing the work?
I don't want to like say excuses like you're somehow wrong. Like for me, it's like fear-based, right? Like there's always this thing of like, what if I put it out and they don't respond? What if I put it out and it doesn't work? What if I put it out? And I'm like, the inverse of that is, well, if you don't put it out, they can't respond. If you don't put it out, it can't work. But if you do, only one of 2 things happens. It either works or it flops. And if it flops, you take a peek at it and you're like, what was missing? How can I do it better? And you iterate and iterate. And so I talk to entrepreneurs and business owners all the time. Don't move the starting line. Don't over perfect this, right? Like at the end of the day, the power of social media and the power of digital marketing is that it gives us the ability to insert ourselves into what's trending or a conversation or a current state without needing production and television studios and photo shoots. But if you're late to the game because you're like, oh, this is what everybody's talking about today, but I can't post it because it's going to take 3 days for me to shoot it and edit it, you've already missed the boat and that attention went somewhere else. And so for me, we live in this world where, it's completely okay to do 30 Instagram stories in a day or 3 Facebook lives or whatever, 7 TikToks, whatever the case is. And you're never going to hit a grand slam every single time, but it's completely okay to get base hits. And, to use your sports analogy, since I'm a sports fan, right? Like, and just keep progressing to score points. But it's really about momentum. And so I tell everybody, like, you have to earn the right to complicate your business. And so use your phone, use Instagram stories, use Facebook Lives, get an idea and be like, I'm going to share this idea. Here's the idea. Here's how to implement it. Good job. And then once it starts to work and you're 90 days in or 120 days in and people are responding to it and you're consistent, and you're showing up and they're showing up, then you can overproduce it because you're generating the income or the revenue or the attention to be like, hey, maybe we should step these shoots up. But most of the people I know, we have millions of followers. We spend a couple $1 million a month on ads and we use this phone 99% of the time. It doesn't get into editing on software, computers, shoots. It's like one person, one light or daylight, and we put it out into the world so we can meet people where they are. And I think it's the most important thing to do is that wherever you are in your business right now, that piece of content, that video, that ad, that blog post, that email that's been putting off because it doesn't look the right way or it's not perfect. I need you to pick a date like today or an hour from now or 2 hours from now and actually ship it and then start again on the next piece, because that's where you're going to win with digital marketing.
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny that you say that, but people pushing play, they just need to get it done. I mean, our next guest has an amazing Facebook Live that he does with his co-host Suki. I mean, Scott and Suki's show is amazing. Like, it's so fun to watch because literally you could see Eric, her husband, in the background, like doing dishes. I mean, it's just, but people are tuning in, thousands of, they have tons of subscribers watching, tons of daily views, and it's fun to watch. But I mean, and it takes zero fear. I mean, and both of those, they're both professionals, so they could do other things. I mean, trust me, they don't need to be on doing a live, but they do it and they entertain the masses, and it's fun to be around and it builds community. And I think that's what a lot of brands need to think about is nobody's going to complain about your quality. Trust me, you can go look at even Saturday Night Live's quality right now, and it's not in the studio. People know that. They're not like, oh my God, they were just, the quality is bad. I was watching The Patriot Act on Netflix. Hassan Majan just did a new episode, and he's standing by a green screen, and he's just like, this is definitely not the holodeck I normally stand on, not the set I'm used to, but I'm producing this in my garage. And I mean, it was really cool. And it's obviously Netflix has a good production team because it looked really good. But I mean, I think that's what brands need to do. So in closing, this is what I have for you. How do you get brands to take that leap, right? This, I have it, where do I go, right? That's the number one thing that I hear from people is like, okay, I have this in my hand. How do I do it? Or, okay, now I made this video and it's on Facebook. How do I do an ad? How do people see it? Like, it's so funny to watch people do it. It's like, you can Google half this stuff, but push the boost button, kind of bound. You have to learn through failure. There's no automatic success rate. I mean, that's what I feel. You're the business whisperer. What do you say?
Yeah. So I love this. And so first, when it comes to Facebook, right? So Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Google, their job is to get you to spend more money on their platform. And they also know that if you spend money and it doesn't work, that you're not going to continue. So both of them, Facebook, I'll use as the big example, has a course like on their business Facebook page that literally rivals $10,000 to $20,000 courses on like how to run paid media and how to launch a Facebook ad for free. And they'll even help you go through it. They're really easy videos. And what I'll tell people, and there's two sides to this. Number one is organic content should always be your foundation, right? And if you go look at these, like we see the highlight reels, right? We see that ad that has 17 million views, right? We see that ad that has 6,000 shares, and we're like, I want to be like them. I want to be like them. And I was like, but then if you actually go to their Facebook page and click on page transparency and look at all the ads, you'll see that there's 190 ads running for that one video to go viral, right? And so number one, the more organic content that you can create, the better you're going to learn your audience and where they are, so you know what's going to resonate with them. And what I like to tell people when they're starting is that your job should be to create organic content. And as you're creating it and people are resonating with it, the ones that get the attention or the ones that get the bigger engagement or kind of click through or results are the ones that we start with when we start getting into paid media. But if you don't have a foundation of organic, you're going to end up basically paying for ads to put yourself out of business, because you're going to be missing a lot of the important pieces. And there's one thing that I love when it comes to creating content, and there's only two tools I use. Number one, I use my audience. And so I'll be like, hey, thinking about talking about fitness for the next 30 days, what are the biggest questions that you've ever want answered? Copy and paste every response and create a piece of content for each one. And then the second one is a tool I use called answerthepublic.com, where you just go to that website and you type in your keyword. Let's say it's weight loss, and it will tell you everything that people are searching and the order with the way that they ask the specific questions. How do I lose weight during quarantine? How do I lose weight during body weight workouts? And I take each one of those questions, and that's where I get my content from. And I always start there. So always test organically with attention and the value that you're creating to see which one is going to get the most attention before you just go out on a whisper and be like, I'm going to spend $100 on this video. I'm going to spend $200 on this video. If it doesn't work organically, it's not going to work paid. And so that's kind of the tip that I would leave everybody with.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Business Whisperer, again, just dropping bombs like he does every Monday, just comes in here with his golden grenades, throws them over the fence. Hopefully everybody goes back and watches. I know a lot of people too, George. A lot of people are messaging the show saying that they go back on Mondays and really listen to what you have to say. So I want to thank you again for coming on all these Mondays. Hopefully you'll stick around and keep coming on Mondays with us for these for your business knowledge. But I want to thank you for coming on, Bud. Have yourself a good week, and we'll see you next Monday.
Thanks. And I will take the moniker, so we'll change the name next week, but I'll see you next Monday.
I love it. Thanks, Bud. Have a good one. Be safe.
You too. Bye.
I don't know why our next guest, we have to use the graffiti thing before. I guess we're saying sports in the WWE. We're just graffiti people. No, just kidding. Excited for our next guest. As you all know, I am a diehard sports fiend. If I can put anything into comparison to sports, you know I love saying we're all shooting on the and all the other fun little cheesy things I say. And you hear George always giving me from my base hits. And then when he said that, by the way, I thought of Don Mattingly always being solid for those good little gappers that Donnie, would always hit. So that's what I thought. But our next guest and final guest for today, if you watch the WWE, you know exactly who I'm talking about. Scott Stanford is joining us today from the WWE. We're going to talk all sports and a little bit of wrestling, because Wrestlemania is right around the corner, and want to talk about what's going on in the world of wrestling. So let's welcome to the show, good friend, Scott Stanford.
All right. How are
Look
you?
at that. No product placement
Listen,
at all.
You can't tell me that marketing doesn't work. You guys are talking about chips. I had to go get Doritos and a Snapple green tea.
I love it. Now I want Cool Ranch, so that sucks.
How you doing? I figured this time I'd come on with the microphone working. Am I doing all right?
It makes a little difference.
All right. We'll just take a drink and we'll be on our way.
Okay. We'll be on our way. We'll be down the road here in a minute.
There we go. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Congrats on your show. I tune in every day. I'm hooked on it. You did have one of my favorite people that I quietly watch. I follow on Instagram,
Who?
Kate Quigley. She is.
Oh, Kate Quigley. Oh, yep. You see the stuff she puts up on Instagram? You know I put her on. You know I had her on.
I was like texting Butch. I was like, let's get her on our show now. Like, I've been following. All of a sudden, Butch is like, what about this one? I'm like, I didn't know there was more than one that does this. I'm like,
yeah, oh yeah, no, it's great. No, very, very talented. We got a great show tonight. We got Joan London coming on tonight. I've got our guy Phil Paz, who's the Oklahoma City police officer who sings. Listen, our Suki and Scott Facebook Live page is inundated with this guy's fans. All they want us to do is put him on, and they don't leave me alone. What's that?
He was singing last night, wasn't he? You guys had that going. He was singing. Somebody was doing a watch from your group last night. And he was singing.
Listen, we have a Suki and Scott discussion group, and these women from all over the country, they're putting up Phil Paz watch parties. What are you gonna do? He's great though, great guy.
Good for ratings, right?
Yeah, listen, it brings in the viewers. Who cares?
So we had sports this weekend. I mean, granted, you work for the WWE. You guys are like, oh, we've been doing that. That's not new. I did see that debate on social over the weekend. I was laughing. I was on Twitter, of course. And people were like, I don't know why everybody's saying NASCAR is the first back. WWE's been doing it the whole time. And somebody's like, well, WWE is not a sport. And I'm like, I'm not telling The Rock that or John Cena.
How dare they?
Like, I'm like, that's your original comeback? It's not a real sport. It's fake. No, really?
To me, WWE is more like, yes, it's sports, it's entertainment mixed together, but it's more like any other show that you see on, Ray Donovan or Ozark or any of these shows that are on once a week. Why can't we look at WWE as, nighttime soap opera like, soap opera like stories where there's action involved in it. Okay, it doesn't always have to be, oh, that's not a real sport. It's sports entertainment. We know what it is by now, but it's still, the bottom line is it's entertainment. Nobody tries to fool anyone thinking that it's UFC or MMA or boxing. Yes, people get hurt once in a while. These guys put their bodies and the girls put their bodies through incredible things. But it's more like, it's like watching a show every Monday night, every Wednesday night, every Friday night. And they just continue to put shows together, which is great because, it keeps me working, which is good for us here at the Stanford household. I'm working from home. I just did a couple of shows this morning. Got more shows tomorrow. And we just had the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Eric, I got to get out of the house for 5 minutes and go up to Connecticut to actually do the kickoff show for the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. And it was kind of surreal. It was very bare bones, 4 people, control room empty. Everybody had masks on except for when we went on the air, obviously. And it's just, to me, WWE, it totally works better with a live audience. But the other sports like the car racing, which I'm not really that much into, you watch car racing for the crashes, right? You're hoping something happens. But to me, tennis, golf, car racing, even baseball, I think you can get away with it. I think any competitive sport where the competition, the 4 major sports, you don't even need an audience to be able to enjoy it on television. Am I right?
I agree with you. I mean, that's just been one of those amazing things when it comes to the way, audience is what I always think of. You can't be at every sporting event. You just can't.
Right.
Obviously I can't go to every Yankee game. I live on the West Coast. I can't,
right.
You can't watch a lot of, obviously I'm a season ticket holder for the Portland Trailblazers. That's a little bit easier, but that's only half the game. So they're road games. It's not like I'm road tripping with the team. So you have to do that. And the WWE, it's always fun to watch. To me, it's entertainment value. And speaking of the WWE, I have to ask you, I was reading an article, The Rock, his daughter is now part of the WWE. That's going to be entertaining, right? He's pretty, obviously everyone loves Dwayne Johnson. Come on. Who doesn't? Listen, so what do you think about his daughter?
There's only one, right? If you're doing the Mount Rushmore of WWE, Rock is obviously up there. With Stone Cold, Hulk Hogan, and who am I missing? I'm missing one more.
Andre?
Ric Flair. Yeah.
Ric
Flair. Ric Flair is on. No, Andre wouldn't be on the Mount Rushmore of WWE. Andre wasn't as widespread as the 4 guys I just mentioned. Hulk Hogan was responsible for bringing WWE really into the whole pop culture realm. Ric Flair, many think was the best wrestler of all time, but between the microphone and inside the ring. And then, you got The Rock and Stone Cold. But Andre would be, he's in your top 10 with like the Bruno Sammartinos of the world. Triple H, Shawn Michaels, those guys all in there.
What about the Macho Man?
To me, those are the top four. What's that?
What about the Macho Man?
Macho Man, maybe top 10, maybe top 15 Macho Man. He might right be on the cusp of the top 10.
Right now there's somebody pretty ticked off watching us, Scott, going, I disagree with Scott's ratings of who these people. They are. They're like, I disagree. Strongly worded letter to WWE. Scott's wrong.
Yeah, right. Hey, your guy just said that Macho Man is outside the top. Oh, yeah. But yes, no, The Rock's daughter, she's been there for a while, kind of under the radar, as The Rock put out, and he said working her butt off. And listen, it'll be interesting to see how she does. She's got a great coach, teaching her how to use the microphone. That's for sure. But it'll be a lot of fun to see how his daughter does. And it's one of those things like Ric Flair's daughter, Charlotte. Originally it was always Ric Flair's daughter. Hey, that's Ric Flair's daughter. Now that Charlotte has done so much, she's won the women's championship like 10 times already. You kind of forget that she's Ric Flair's daughter anymore. And even Rick says, I'm her father. She's, don't say it's Ric Flair's daughter. It's, I'm her father. So she's really, she's carved a niche of her own. So we'll see. We'll see how The Rock's daughter does. It'll be fun. But again, just looking forward to, getting everybody back. I still don't understand how that's gonna work. Because to me, I don't think we're any closer to getting anything done than we were back in February. That's just my own opinion. Doesn't feel like it anyway. I know the reopening things here and there. I think that's a big mistake because I think you're just going to have the virus re-kick itself in and start spreading again. But it's funny, Eric. I had a conversation with somebody the other day. I said, how they can, if you look at baseball, they're trying to figure out how to get the players back to baseball. The only way you can really do it, to avoid the locker rooms and the chat. If you show up in your uniform, game's over, you leave in your uniform and you go home. You know what I mean? And there's, but you still have that contact, maybe a barreling over of a catcher or a slide into second base. So is it ever really going to be 100% safe? Probably not. But you have to, in this day and age and what's cooking, you have to take out the whole, closeness. Forget the crowds, that's insane. But even in the dugouts, everybody's close, locker rooms, showers, that whole, what are you going to test everybody every time they walk in and out? So the only way I see it happening for baseball is, I know they're trying to come up with a lot of rules and regulations, but to me, the first thing you have to do is, you show up in your uniform, the game's over, you go to your car and go home. Yep. What else are you going to do?
And that's what happened, Scott. Just the other day, a lot of NBA facilities started opening up again, and they went through the same thing. They were there we go. They were doing the same thing. The players went into practice, got their temperature taken, went to the locker room. They weren't allowed to be around each other to do anything, and they took their gear home with them. You got to think about it. Here's these multimillionaires. They're like, I've got to take my sweaty clothes home with me, which is funny. The younger guys, they're funny when they tell us. They're like, that was cool. It's like going to the gym. We just leave what we came on, just walk out. Like, they're like, don't high five, don't shake hands, proceed straight to your car and drive away. And it's funny that those
right.
Like,
just go home. It's all good.
Just leave in what you're wearing.
Man, it's all just wild. What's funny though? Here's how athletes who make millions of dollars live in an entirely different world than we do. Right. This morning I'm laying in bed and I read my phone and the paper and I go through some stuff, and I go 2 articles. One about this crazy the nursing home situation at a nursing home in New York, which is an absolute disaster, and then another about it was like a 5-year-old girl who just she got past the COVID virus, but she got the Kawasaki, and now she's back on a ventilator, right? And the parents are insane. And then I see an article from Mark Teixeira talking about Gerrit Cole. I don't know if you saw this, right? And the article was Mark Teixeira saying, I can't even imagine going through what Gerrit Cole is going through. And you know what he's going through? Not being able to pitch for his new team yet. with all the pressure. This is what Mark, and I love Mark Teixeira, great guy. But this is what these guys, Mark Teixeira's quote was, I can't imagine going through what he's going through. Getting $5 million a week in your bank account and sitting home waiting for baseball to start. I can't imagine going through that either, because I'd be the happiest guy in America.
Yeah, I haven't felt bad for them watching them on like when Barstool's showing like Freddie Freeman poolside with his son hitting off the tee.
Yeah,
I'm like, nah, I don't feel bad.
Right?
Your house looks beautiful. You look like you're well paid and well fed. You know, it's rough life.
It's got to be a miserable experience. You know, spring training was cut short, and Garrett Cole was just signed to a new team for $700 gazillion, and now he's got to wait to start to play for them. My heart's breaking. It's breaking.
Right? It's horrible. I just wanted to see the Astros get beaten. I mean, that's the only thing that I'm waiting for. I mean, I'm hoping that this goes. You know what's funny, Scott, is all of the rumor mills about all the sports coming back, and they're all saying they're all going to go to Orlando. And I represent a few guys that are in different leagues, and I'm laughing. I'm like,
yeah,
y'all just going to hang out at Disney? It's just going to be like one big. And so it's funny talking to the guys. They're like, well, it'd be cool if we all got like the park to our families. So while we're playing, they have the park by themselves. I'm like, yeah, I don't see that happening. Disney's not going to be like, somebody's going to be paying a lot of money. But that's a lot of people in one space. If you think about it, having MLB, Major League Soccer, Major League Soccer could technically play in an empty stadium, and I don't think too many people would miss it. Sorry, Major League Soccer. I just wanted to be blunt. The NBA, the NBA, obviously, there's a lot of things that need to go on with that. NHL, you don't really hear much from the NHL. Everything I read, especially off The Athletic, I just don't see a season for the NHL because they seem to be the ones that are being super silent and doing their own thing. I did laugh this morning when it came to basketball. A guy from the Utah Jazz, he just had season-ending surgery. I'm like, he probably could have done that a few weeks ago. He would have been good. Like
season-ending surgery.
Season-ending.
Yeah, no, listen. It's really, it's all insane. And to me, like I said, they're starting to open up the beaches and some bars and restaurants and this and that. I just think it's crazy, man. Listen, to me, as much as I love going to the beach, if there's a slim possibility I'm going to go to the beach and catch a disease that eats my insides out and then kills me, I don't need to go right now. That's like saying you're going to go to the beach. There might be a shark that swims up to the shallow area and takes you out to sea. I don't see what people are going nuts about, to get their hair cut. I'm doing my own haircut. It looks awful, but it's fine.
You're a beautiful man.
I don't think I need my haircut girl anymore. I don't think I need her. I'm going to have to tell her she's finished. But no, it's just, listen to me. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I stay in my house. I run to the supermarket. You know what I mean? I'm trying, and I don't see a reason to go do anything until you see that this thing is gone away. We have a vaccine, so who knows, right? And I don't even think they know. I don't think anybody knows really what the deal is.
It's funny that you say that. I was just going to say, for the last 2 days, there you hear one group, everything's fine. There's no new cases reported. And the Texas reports this morning, they had their largest spike ever of people testing positive for coronavirus. And I'm going, who's in charge? And I'm like, this is why I love sports, because I don't have to deal with a lot of misinformation, except when, Adam Schefter puts out bad, football trades that aren't true. He needs to follow the Woj and only report the truth, because the Woj is the man. Talk about a guy who's on it. I love Woj. Woj is like,
well, yeah. You know what I like? Just think about guys like Woj and Adam Schefter, how long they had to do this to work at that craft before they can get all these networking connections and guys to trust them. You know what I mean? And be, on a general manager's list to be like the first or second person. Hey, listen, we're doing a trade for this guy. You want to put it out? You put it out. It just, you really, you got to be around for a long time. B, you have to secure people's trust. And it's just, that takes a long time to cultivate, all those contacts and sources to because you're not sitting there. Oh, I'm going to call the GM of the Patriots. Bill Belichick. Is anybody getting traded today? Those people call him. You know what I mean? So he really cultivated that for a long, long time.
Let me ask you this. One of my favorite things, I meant to ask you the last time you were on, but how does it feel? Because you've been in sports for a long time, that all these players respond on social media. Like they'll come back at you. And there's a couple on the big network that love to go after certain players and pick on them. And it's fun to see the players come back at them. CJ McCollum from the Trailblazers is constantly a target of certain people. And he comes back, he's like, dude, I made it to the Western Conference Finals. You didn't even play hoop. So what's it like being in sports? If you make a comment about a player, obviously you probably don't, I look at your Twitter, you don't really come after anybody or say anything. But what do you think about those guys that do it? Do you think they're out to, is it for the tweet, or is it they actually have something to say and they want the player to react?
Well, the funny thing is, when I was doing, Suki and I were doing the morning show, and I was doing sports on picks, and when I first started in wrestling, and still today, because once you go up on a pay-per-view on the WWE network, there's millions of people watching. Everybody starts tweeting at you. So what I would do is, if anytime somebody would send a disparaging tweet toward my way, hey, Stanford, you're a hack, or whatever it is, just something not very pleasant. I would retweet it up and put it up online, so the rest of my followers could then just attack that person on their own. And B, what I would also do is I would put a comment on top of the tweet, and I would just spec back with something funny, something to the effect of, hey, Ma, I told you not to drink during the day. You know what I mean? And then that person, right away, you diffuse that person, and they'll then write you back and say, hey, man, I really enjoy your stuff. You freak them out when you answer them back, is number one, because they don't expect to hear back from you. That's what they're trying to do. You know what I mean? When they send you those disparaging tweets, they want to try and elicit a response out of you. And if you send something back to them that's kind of diffuses the whole situation, they're done. They've got nothing they could possibly say back. I'm telling you, I've had some, and I don't really get that controversial on TV. I just do my thing. But when we were on picks, and if I said something during a sportscast, someone would write me, this guy Stanford should be kicked off the air. No, get him off the 10 o'clock news, blah, 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 blah. And I would just write like I would, Ma, I told you not to take those pills during the day. And then, everybody would love it. And that person would actually, hey, you know what? You're not so bad. You know what I mean? Just the fact that you answered them back, they like it. So that's the best way. If you're going to answer someone to begin with, hit them back with something kind of more on the comical side, because then you pretty much diffuse that person. They can't come back at you with anything else. But I know a lot of these people, Kevin Durant gets into a lot of Twitter wars with people. And just the thing is, that Kevin Durant is a multimillionaire. He's living life probably a lot better than the person who wrote the tweet in the first place. But Durant some of these guys get so riled up when they can get 100 great, hey, you're the best player, you're the best, you're the best. One disparaging tweet, and that's the only one they'll focus on. But to me, it's all BS anyway. When you look at the folks who are, writing you, I mean, I'll write, hey, do I come down to your job and say bad crap about you at 7-Eleven? That's all. You just, if you write stuff back and just diffuse it, they're done. They have nothing else they can write.
I agree with you with that. I know I get a few of them, and I'm like, okay, you and your 3 followers, thanks. I'm sure Mom, Dad, and your brother.
Listen, Eric, here's what I want you to do. Next time somebody writes something bad about you, I want you to retweet it with your comment on top. I'm going to let you take this one. Say, Mom, I told you, do not leave the nursing home during the day, and no drinking and then your people see it, then they'll attack the person. You know what I mean? And you pretty much, and they know that they didn't get to you. That's what they're trying to do.
I love it, Scott. It's always great having you on. We got to have you back more often. I love having you on. It's fun to talk sports and learn.
Anytime, bud. Anytime.
I love it. We got to give you a regular segment until you have to go back and actually work. And
I know. One of these days, I got to go get a real job again.
I mean, it's funny. It's like, eventually we're going to go back to work, but till then, we're going to keep putting people on. Keep on coming on.
I think I want the quarantine to continue. I'm having too much fun.
I know. I mean, I love your guys' show. I got to tell you before you go, it is a blast. And I love watching Eric the other day. He just back there doing dishes and sweeping. Like, there's like a couple thousand people watching. And you had
it's
when you
funny.
guys had Kate on, I was just blown away. I was like, I knew exactly who it was. I was like,
Yeah.
I
Did you
sent a
see
couple
before?
questions in, so
Did you see George Lopez from the golf course?
yeah,
that one night.
that was strong. I mean,
It's
George
amazing.
Lopez,
George
Kate Quigley. I mean, one's really funny, and the other one in a bikini.
I enjoy her Instagrams. I certainly do.
Yeah, her social is fun to watch. Now there's a whole bunch of thirsty people out there right now. They're like, who are they talking about? And we're not going to tag her for you to look. But anyways, Bud, I want to thank you for coming on. It's a pleasure as always, and we'll have you on real soon.
Bud.
Thanks, Bud.
Anytime. You got it, my man.
You got it. Thanks, Bud.
All right, bud.
And that's it. That's a wrap. We have a great show for you tomorrow. Great guests the remainder of the week. A good show for you on Thursday. Reminders, Thursday is healthcare worker, first responder, veteran. We will have a special guest who is actually appearing on Guy Ferreri's Grocery Games, Navy vet. Is going to be on our show the day after. We're going to ask him some questions. And we're going to get the boys from Space Force. So we're going to have the Marine Rapper and his crew coming on to talk about their new album that drops next week. Week full of guests. You want to stay tuned for Friday. Friday, we have Joy Villa on. We're going to be talking about President Trump's 2020 hopes. You know, kind of go with Mo Villa 2 weeks ago. Going to have Joy on. Get some insight there for you. So thank you very much for tuning in on behalf of myself and the entire team here at To The Point, from our executive producer, Butch Seltzer and Madison Mitchell, to the main man, who, by the way, if you go to his social and check him out, was on Joe Piscopo show this morning talking about his passionate cause to help our veteran mental health and prevent the 22 suicides a day. He had a great segment on Joe Piscopo. Go check out my man, Chris. We'll share it on our show also, so you can go check it out. He crushed it. Thank you, Joe Piscopo and Frank Marino, for that, having our awesome producer on your show today. We appreciate you. On behalf of us, we thank you guys so, so much. And again, I'm Eric Mitchell. Be safe, be smart, be strong, and God bless America.